What if I told you that walking away, not chasing, is what makes her question everything? She expected tears. She expected calls. She expected you to fight for her attention like a desperate man fighting to stay relevant. But instead you did the unthinkable. You let her go. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally realized your worth wasn't something she could validate or deny. The pain you felt wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of your awakening. Because true strength isn't in clinging, it's in releasing. Right now you stand at a crossroads. You can keep hoping she'll turn around, or you can become the man she never imagined losing. So if you're ready to choose growth over chasing, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications and comment below, "I walk away with dignity." Let's begin. Number 1, when you let go before they expect you to. There's a moment they don't expect. It's not when they leave or when they say they need space. It's not even when they pull back slowly, creating distance under the mask of indifference. The moment they don't see coming is when you let go, quietly, fully, without bitterness. Because deep down they expected you to hold on. They expected the pleading, the long texts, the glances back. But what they get instead is stillness. Calm, closure that doesn't require their permission. And that stillness unnerves them, because they thought they'd remain in control of the story, that they could walk away and you'd stay stuck in the echo. But instead you closed the door. Not with noise, not with anger, but with self-respect. You didn't flinch, you didn't chase, you accepted. And that acceptance carried a power louder than any words. According to Epictetus, freedom begins when we stop trying to control what lies beyond our reach. Her decision to walk away, that's hers. Her silence, hers too. But what you do next, that's where your freedom starts. Not in resisting her departure, but in refusing to follow it. When you no longer seek answers or apologies, when you no longer orbit her presence or absence, you sever the invisible thread that kept her at the center of your emotional world. You don't do this to punish, you do this to preserve. You don't disappear to be missed, you disappear to breathe, to return to yourself. Because the version of you that needed her to stay was also the version that hadn't yet realized he could stand without her. This isn't the collapse of connection, it's the quiet rebirth of sovereignty. And in that silence something shifts, not just in you but in them. The expectation breaks, the image of you waiting fades. What's left is a silhouette walking forward without hesitation, not wounded but wiser, not frozen but freer. You become a question they didn't anticipate. How did he let go so easily? And the answer lies not in what you say, but in everything you no longer need to explain. Letting go isn't loss, it's alignment. You didn't release them out of spite, you released them because your peace demanded it. If you've ever surprised someone by walking away first, share your strength. I didn't let go out of anger. I let go because I chose myself. Number 2, the power of saying nothing at all. There's a certain kind of silence that isn't absence. It's presence distilled. When someone walks away or starts to fade, they often expect noise in return. They expect confrontation, closure seeking, emotional unraveling. They expect your need to surface in words, in pleas, in the desperate rhythm of someone who hasn't accepted what's happened. But when you meet their absence, not with reaction but with restraint, when you choose silence, not as a weapon but as a boundary, it changes everything. This isn't avoidance, it's awareness. The awareness that some things don't need to be answered. That silence, when rooted in self-respect, is not passive, it's deliberate. And in the philosophy of Stoicism, silence is more than non-reaction. It is the refusal to hand over your inner world to external chaos. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we may not control what others do, but we can control how we respond. And often, the strongest response is none at all. Right now, you might feel the itch to say something, to remind them what you had, to clarify the version of you they didn't stay long enough to understand. But you must ask yourself, is that impulse coming from peace or from ego? Most of the time, it's not really about them hearing you, it's about you not wanting to feel unseen. But here's the truth, you don't need to be seen by someone who already looked away. Silence is not coldness, it's clarity. It's the decision to no longer dance with uncertainty, to no longer pour into someone who only offered you fragments. In your quiet, you reclaim what words often waste: dignity. Because when you don't explain yourself, you leave space for the other person to feel your absence, and often that echo carries more weight than any message ever could. You don't need to defend your worth, you don't need to correct their impression. When you know who you are and you honor that knowledge with calm, collected distance, you rise above the noise. And in that quiet strength, they begin to realize that what they left behind wasn't desperate. It was deliberate. The next time you feel the urge to speak, pause. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to peace or pull me back into a cycle I've already outgrown? Because not every silence needs to be filled. Some are meant to be heard. If you've learned to let your silence speak for you, leave your mark below. I protect my peace, not with words, but with stillness. Number 3. Pain is not the end, it's the invitation to rebuild. There's a turning point in every heartbreak where you face a quiet decision. Will I let this break me, or will I let it build me? At first, pain feels like an enemy. It crashes in unexpectedly, sharp and unbearable. You wake with it, sleep with it, walk through your day with it, dragging behind you like an old chain. And yet, slowly, you realize something else. Pain is also a door, not one you would have chosen, but one that now stands open, asking if you're ready to walk through it. What she took with her wasn't just companionship. It was the version of you that was still waiting for someone else to complete the picture. Her absence didn't just leave a space in your heart. It revealed how many spaces you'd never filled for yourself. You can sit there, staring at the hole she left behind, or you can get to work. The choice isn't about forgetting her, it's about finally remembering you. Epictetus spoke often about aligning your actions with the kind of person you want to become. Not the kind of person who gets the girl, but the one who stays grounded when she walks away. This is where that teaching becomes real, not in comfort, but in discomfort. Not in theory, but in discipline. The gym becomes your temple, your routine, your shield. Every rep, every word you write, every step forward is a declaration that says, I may be hurting, but I'm not halting. You're not changing to get her attention. You're changing so that one day, when you look in the mirror, you see someone who didn't collapse when it hurt the most. Someone who built structure where chaos used to live. You rise, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. You put up boundaries, you focus on growth, and with time the need for closure turns into a desire for clarity. Clarity about who you are when no one's watching. Clarity about what you want to carry into the future. And when she sees you again, if she ever does, she won't recognize the man who once needed her approval to feel whole, because that man no longer exists. In his place stands someone sharpened by silence, disciplined by pain, and awakened by purpose. If you've ever turned your pain into your starting point, share your path. I didn't just survive. I used the fire to forge myself. Number 4. When clarity comes from within, not from closure. You keep checking your phone, her posts, the way she phrases a message. You analyze the silence as if it were a code waiting to be broken, a puzzle where if you just find the missing piece, it will all make sense. But deep down you know she's not coming back with an explanation. The clarity you think you need isn't waiting on the other end of a message. It's something you'll have to create yourself. The hardest part about being left behind isn't the absence, it's the ambiguity. It's the way people leave doors half open, the vague goodbyes, the mixed signals, the refusal to say it's truly over. They don't want to be the villain, so they vanish gently, hoping time will take the blame. And you, stuck in the silence, hold on to the hope that maybe they'll return with the truth. But the truth isn't out there anymore, it's in you. Stoicism teaches us that suffering intensifies when we let imagination distort reality. Seneca said it best, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this is exactly that kind of suffering. You're not stuck in what actually happened, you're stuck in what hasn't been said. You keep playing the same scenes in your mind, rewriting them, trying to figure out what went wrong. But closure isn't something they give you, it's something you choose. It happens in a quiet moment, when you stop refreshing the screen, when you stop waiting for words that won't come, when you tell yourself, "I may never get the explanation I wanted, but I'm giving myself the peace I need." Because continuing to wait is its own form of imprisonment. It keeps you in a holding pattern, orbiting around someone who's no longer in your sky. Instead, step out of that orbit. Name the truth out loud. She left. Maybe softly, maybe without reason, but she left. And that's enough. You don't need her to validate your pain to make it real. You don't need her to explain herself so you can move forward. Because clarity isn't a gift someone else hands you, it's the line you draw when you're done being confused. And when you draw that line, something liberating happens. You stop needing their words, you start trusting your own. If you've ever had to make peace without answers, share the strength that helped you through. I didn't wait for closure, I chose clarity on my own terms. Number 5. Letting go of the illusion, not the person. You're not holding on to her, you're holding on to the version of her that never truly existed. The version who always understood, always stayed, always chose you. The one your mind shaped when the nights got quiet and the silence grew heavy. You've built a story, not a memory, a dream, not a history. And the pain you feel now isn't just from losing her. It's from losing the illusion you created around her. That illusion was comforting. It made the breakup feel like a mistake, like something reversible, something fixable if only you became more, tried harder, said the right thing. But the truth is, love built on fantasy is fragile. It can't survive reality, because reality has weight, it has flaws, and when you finally confront the difference between who she was and who you wanted her to be, you stop chasing closure and start reclaiming your mind. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. It is the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone, and the truth here is sharp. You weren't in love with her, you were in love with the potential of what could have been. And potential is addictive. It's clean, it doesn't talk back, it doesn't disappoint. But it also doesn't exist." Letting go, then, isn't betrayal. It's not a denial of love. It's an act of honesty. You stop editing the past to fit the ending you wanted. You stop romanticizing red flags as passion. You stop treating a person like a promise they never made. And instead, you face what's real. She left. She chose differently. She revealed herself. And once someone reveals who they are, it's your responsibility to believe them, not rewrite them. This is how you move forward, not by erasing, but by seeing clearly. You honor the connection, but you stop letting it distort the present. You don't burn the memories, you simply stop giving them more weight than they deserve. And in doing so, you give yourself the greatest gift Stoicism offers: freedom from illusion, peace with reality. If you've ever had to release someone, not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally saw the truth, let your voice carry that courage. I let go of the story. I choose the truth, even when it hurts. Number 6. Close the door, not out of spite, but for peace. There's a quiet kind of strength in deciding not to look back. Not because you're angry, not because you want them to notice, but because your peace finally matters more than the emotional chaos they left behind. Too many people leave without fully leaving, still watching your stories, still liking your posts, still leaving just enough breadcrumbs to keep your heart hoping. And you, half healed, keep the door open just in case they return, just in case they realize. But the door they walked out of should never become their revolving entrance. You think checking in occasionally is harmless, that following their life from a distance is just curiosity, but every moment spent wondering how they're doing is a moment stolen from your own becoming. Healing can't happen where attention still flows outward, and attention in the Stoic worldview is sacred. What you give it to, you give power. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." If your mind is scattered between your past and their present, it's not in the only place that matters, your now. So this is the moment where you decide, not loudly, not theatrically, but clearly. You stop following, you stop searching, you stop reacting to that occasional message that says nothing but stirs everything. You don't need to announce it, you don't need closure, you just close. This isn't coldness, it's cleanliness. You're cleaning your emotional space. You're choosing not to let your heart become a waiting room for someone who no longer intends to sit. You're choosing to be unfindable, not to punish them, but to protect yourself. And something powerful happens when you do. You stop feeling like the victim of an unfinished story. You stop waiting to be chosen again. You stop needing to prove that you've healed. Because true healing doesn't need an audience. It just needs silence and time. Let them wander, let them scroll and not find you. Let your absence be the boundary they never respected when you were still reachable. You're not doing this because you hate them. You're doing it because you love yourself enough to stop inviting old wounds into your present. If you've ever chosen peace over reopening the past, leave a mark for others walking the same road. I didn't slam the door, I simply stopped leaving it unlocked. Number 7, become the person they can no longer reach. They expected you to wait, maybe not forever, but long enough for them to feel in control, long enough to believe that if they ever changed their mind, you'd still be there, arms half open, heart on standby. That expectation wasn't born out of cruelty, it was born from familiarity. You were once predictable in your vulnerability. They saw your pain, your patience, your hope, but what they didn't see coming was your evolution. You didn't just move on, you transformed, quietly, deliberately, without posting about it, without needing them to see it. You turned silence into discipline. You took every ache, every unanswered question, and forged it into structure, not for show, not for revenge, but because you realized that survival wasn't enough. You needed to build. Stoicism doesn't encourage you to prove anything to anyone. Marcus Aurelius never wrote about vindication. He wrote about alignment, about becoming the person your values point toward, even when no one's watching. And that's what you did. You trained when you didn't feel like it. You focused when your mind wanted to wander. You stopped checking their feed. You stopped imagining reunions. You let the silence become not a void but a forge. And what emerged wasn't the same man they left. What emerged was someone too grounded to be shaken by old attachments, someone whose self-worth no longer hinges on who stays or who goes. You became unreachable, not because you're hiding, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself who needed their recognition. This doesn't mean you're bitter, in fact it means you've healed, because true healing doesn't end with getting them back, it ends with not needing them to understand who you've become. And that's the irony they never saw coming. They left thinking you'd shatter, but instead, you sharpened. Now, if they ever look back, they'll see a version of you they no longer recognize. Clear eyes, self-contained, walking forward without hesitation, not to impress, but because the path ahead finally means more than the past behind. You didn't become untouchable out of pride. You became untouchable because peace no longer comes from proximity. It comes from principle. If you've ever risen so far above your past that it no longer fits your future, speak it out loud. I didn't become colder, I became untouchable through clarity. Number 8. Letting go is the most honest form of self-love. They think letting go means giving up, that walking away means you've stopped caring, that silence is bitterness in disguise. But sometimes the truest expression of love for yourself, is knowing when to stop fighting for something that no longer fights for you. You don't let go because it was easy. You let go because holding on was starting to cost you your peace. And peace, once you've tasted it, becomes something you can no longer trade. In the beginning, it felt noble to stay, to wait, to hope. You told yourself that loyalty meant endurance, that love meant holding space for someone even when they no longer earned it. But time reveals things feelings can't, and slowly the truth sets in. The person you were breaking for would never have broken for you. They weren't your forever. They were your lesson. Epictetus reminds us, know what you can control and what you must release. You can't control whether they regret, whether they return, whether they understand the damage they left behind. But you can control whether you carry that weight any further, whether you keep building your life around someone who chose to leave it. Letting go doesn't mean you erase the past. It means you stop anchoring yourself to it. It means you draw a line not through anger, but through alignment. You choose not to offer your energy where it is neither received nor respected. You don't slam the door, you simply stop holding it open. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You return to yourself, not the version of you that was waiting, wounded, wondering, but the one who starts again. Quietly, strongly. You begin to invest in routines that heal rather than distract, in goals that pull you forward instead of emotions that pull you back. You wake up one morning and realize you're not trying to win them back anymore. You're not trying to be seen. You're just living, fully, authentically. And that's what they never expected, that you'd stop needing their presence to feel whole, that you'd stop defining your value through the lens of their attention. You let go not because you had to, but because you finally wanted more for yourself. If you've ever chosen to release someone because loving yourself required it, mark this moment. I let go, not to lose them, but to find me. You started this journey heartbroken, unsure of what to do next, but now you see clearly. Letting go didn't weaken you, it freed you. She didn't expect you to detach. She didn't expect your silence to echo louder than any words. And now she sees what real value looks like. She didn't take your power, you reclaimed it by walking away. If you're ready to keep evolving into your highest self, like this video, subscribe, and comment. I am unstoppable. Stay grounded, stay rising, because the man who walks away always walks toward something greater.